Dr. Joseph Romm is on the line with us, the founding editor of climateprogress.org, senior fellow at the Center for American Progress, chief science advisor with the Emmy Award-winning TV series Years of Living Dangerously. climateprogress.org, of course, his website. Dr. Romm, welcome back.
Hi, thanks for having me, Tom.
Thanks for joining us. You have been writing about why California's record drought is just the beginning. Tell us about this.
Sure. Well, I think that your listeners are probably familiar with the fact that California has had this brutal 3-year drought, and it's really perhaps now the worst drought in recorded history. Droughts are a combination of two things generally. You have the reduced precipitation, that's less rain, less snow. That's often directly how people think of a drought, but also high temperatures. High temperatures cause water to evaporate from soil and water to evaporate from reservoirs and everywhere else. So high temperatures also worsen droughts, and also in a place that gets a lot of water from snow caps, as the West does, the mountain snow caps are the reservoirs for places that don't get a lot of rain in the summertime. They have streams that provide water and humidification. So we're now in a situation where it is clearly hotter thanks to global warming, and it is clearly less snowfall and earlier snow melt causing worse parts of summer droughts. The big question is global warming also changing precipitation in California? That's been a subject of a bunch of recent studies, and in fact some studies 10 years ago that predicted global warming would set up a specific weather condition whereby there would be a high-pressure system off the coast of Northern California and Canada, which would divert storms and weather that would otherwise bring rain to California, would send it up north to Alaska. And as people who live in California knows, there has been this thing called the ridiculously resistant ridge of high pressure, the 3 Rs. And there have been 2 major studies this year which said that global warming makes such blocking patterns that get stuck, far more likely. And the latest study led by Stanford concluded that this particular blocking pattern over the Pacific Ocean that diverts storms is about 3 times more likely because of greenhouse gas concentrations. And there are many studies that make a more general argument that global warming is going to cause weather patterns to stall, and I know of more studies that are yet to come. So I think there's a growing case that yes, global warming is affecting and worsening and making this particular drought much worse and much more likely to last a long time than it would have been just if it had been, kind of random weather.
Right. I've heard a description, and I'd like you to reality check this for me. There's been a lot of talk about this. We live in a marina down here in D.C., and there's a lot of guys who are just total weather freaks down there, mariners and pilots and whatnot. I'm a pilot. And the argument is that the jet stream, this river of cold air that at high altitudes that circles the North Pole, or circles north of us anyway, that it has historically been held in place by the differential in temperature, by the gradient in temperature between the mid-latitudes where we are here and the Arctic latitudes. And because the Arctic is warming 5 or 6 times faster than mid-latitudes like here in D.C., that temperature gradient has deteriorated to the point that the main thing that's holding the jet stream up are now geographic features, like the mountain ridge that starts in Alaska and runs, through the Rocky Mountains and down into the central part of the United States. And that's one of the reasons why, A, we're seeing the jet stream not, or we're seeing weird weather in California, but also, B, why this incredibly cold Arctic air is just drooling over the eastern half of the United States, or the central and eastern part of the United States, sort of like a yarmulke sliding off the top of a head, because the jet stream's not there to block it anymore, and this might even be the new normal. Your thoughts on that?
Yes, well, I think those points are true, but let me put it this way: we know things with varying levels of certainty. We know that human carbon pollution is warming the planet, changing the climate with the same degree of confidence that we know cigarette smoking causes cancer.
Right.
So very, very high confidence. What you've described is emerging science. It's emerged because the Arctic has been losing ice literally decades faster than people thought would happen. And I think most of your listeners have noticed that just in the last several years, the weather has gotten much stranger, much more extreme events, once-in-a-thousand-year events happening all sorts of places. And there has now been a growing body of literature that says, yes, the loss of Arctic ice is weakening the jet stream. If you've had Dr. Jennifer Francis of Rutgers on, she's one of the leading experts on it. If you haven't, I certainly would urge you to have her, because she can explain this much better than anyone I know. But it is basically the case that much of the weather in the northern hemisphere, certainly much of the weather in North America, is driven by this temperature difference between the warmth in the tropics and the warmth in the Gulf of Mexico and the cold in the Arctic. Mm-hmm. And yes, the Arctic has been warming considerably faster than the rest of the planet, which has long been predicted. We knew that would be the case. But the loss of Arctic ice dramatically shifts the temperature balance, and that's because when you have ice covering the ice cap, you can have temperatures like 60, 70, 80 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit above ice. But above open water, it's going to be freezing.
32 degrees Fahrenheit.
There's such a massive heat content in water that basically uncovering the Arctic in the late spring, over the summer, and early fall allows a massive amount of extra heat to be emitted into the system from the water.
Because water's so much more dense, it'll hold more heat.
Well, it's just there's a scientific term, heat capacity. Obviously, anybody knows that if you touch a hot metal, you grab your pot, you can get burned. But if you let go really quickly, not so bad. Right. But you can't put your hand on the top of boiling water. Right. It's just going to convey too much heat to you.
Yeah.
So as a result, we are seeing a dramatic shift in the balance of temperatures, and by all evidence, the jet stream is weakening. Now, the jet stream is what keeps weather patterns moving along, and if the jet stream weakens and in particular forms big loops, stuff can get stuck in those loops.
Yeah.
And you can get these
bad things happen.
Heats, and which we've had, and then in 2012, of course, we had worse heat.
Right. Dr. Rahm, we're out of time, but thank you so much for dropping by, Dr. Joseph Rahm, climateprogress.org. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.